Hello everybody, and welcome back to the House of Nostalgia. Today I am doing a video on the Crusaders. And the reason why I'm doing a video on the Crusaders is because one day I was shopping around in a store and I heard Street Life playing in the background. And I said, you know what? I think I'm going to do a video on these guys. The Crusaders are a band that was straight out of Houston, Texas. And their original members were Joe Sample, Nesbert Sticks Hopper, and Wilton Felder. And they were high school friends. They formed this band while they were still in school. And this was around 1954. Now, during Joe Sample's college years at Texas Southern University, 3 other musicians were added to the group. And it was bassist Henry Wilson, Wayne Henderson on trombone, and Hubert Laws on the flute. The band had a few name changes during the course of their career, but their earlier name was the Swingsters, and this was until 1960. The original founders of the group, Nesbert Sticks Hopper, Joe Sample, and Wilton Felder, relocated to LA along with Wayne Henderson. In 1961, they recorded for the Pacific Jazz record label, and their name became the Jazz Crusaders. They didn't change their name to the Crusaders until around the early 1970s. Henry Wilson and Hubert Laws took their careers in another direction. But Hubert Laws had an amazing career. He was nominated for 3 Grammy Awards, and he comes from the talented Laws family. He is the brother of Ronnie, Eloise, Johnny, and Deborah Laws. The band recorded 16 albums for the Pacific Jazz label, and in 1962, the band hit with the Young Rabbit single from the Looking Ahead album. The 1969 Powerhouse album was a hit as well, and it was the last album on the Pacific label. The band didn't seem to have any big commercial success with any of the 16 albums, although they started out hitting the charts early in their career. Henderson left the band in 1975 and took the job as a record producer. Wilton Felder was part of the Motown house band in the 70s when Motown moved to Los Angeles. Nesbert Sticks Hopper played with a lot of heavyweight bands like the Rolling Stones and Quincy Jones and more. Joe Sample is featured on a lot of heavyweight musicians' work like B.B. King, Steely Dan, and Anita Baker, just to name a few. Now, this is some of the work that they did separate from the group. 2 more musicians were added to the band in the 70s, which was guitarist Larry Carlton and Max Bennett. Robert Pops Popwell joined later in the 70s. Everything seemed to change for the group with 4 classic album releases in a row, starting with Southern Comfort in 1974, Chain Reaction in 1975, and one of my favorites, Those Southern Nights in 1976, with the monster hit Keep That Same Old Feeling. Free as the Wind came around in 1977. I believe this is the result of the band switching from their jazz up to a more jazz funk sound. After the success of these albums, their music were being played on R&B radio stations. In 1979, the band had their biggest hit single of their career, the 1979 Street Life album with the monster title track Street Life. What a way for the band to end the 70s. The Street Life song used the unique vocals of Miss Randy Crawford. And in 1983, Hopper left the band. The Crusaders released another 20 albums after Street Life, and I believe 3 of them were live albums. Those albums were recorded under the Crusaders and the Jazz Crusaders, mainly because the band would be revived by different members at different times, starting from the 90s until 2004. The Crusaders were a very talented jazz band, but they had their musical critics. It was said in the early 70s that their music was no longer up to par, so to speak, as it once was. Now, this was before they had their breakthrough commercial album, and I believe people thought that they would never have a commercial hit. Then the critics said that their career died down after the Street Life album. But by 1980, the band had been performing for close to 30 years. 3 of the original members passed away: Joe Sample in 2014, Wayne Henderson in 2014, and Wilton Felder in 2015. 2 of their later members also passed away: Robert Popwell in 2017 and Max Bennett in 2018. Nesbitt Sticks Hopper, Hubert Laws, and Larry Carlton are in their 70s and 80s. I would like to thank you guys so much for watching this video on the Crusaders.